Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back, Skarbek. Awesome. So a few things going on today. First up, well done, Myra and Yurik, who's having a well-deserved day off, completing release management duties. And also huge thanks to everyone. I think so far you've all been around helping me today and having to get involved in things. So thank you. Today's gone very smoothly as a result. So much appreciated. To help me recover from my first week of release management, next week I'll be on PTO. Myron will be back and he'll be covering my release management stuff. And this week we've got Skarbek, thank you, covering for Robert. So Robert will be back as well next Monday. But yeah, if you need anything, generally day to day, obviously Myron will be around to help you with that stuff. So then I saw that there's a trial going on for the new discretionary bonus process. So just a heads up on that one. At the moment it's running alongside the Bamboo process. And then if this one's like hugely more successful, the Bamboo one will be removed. So just heads up on that. So some discussion points. I can put an issue together, we can debate it, but like, has anyone got any interest in us writing something or other about how continuous deployment or continuous delivery has been over the last year and like changes in GitLab that we're seeing as a result of that?
Is this something basically explaining what we did and how our journey from releasing once a month to twice a day, something like that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I think it's like we've got Jarvis doing a great job of putting one together, a kind of 1 year of Kubernetes and sort of looking back on, you know, what's changed and what did we learn as we went, and you know how all that stuff. It seems like, I mean, I was chatting to someone earlier, and it's like even in the time I've been here, like when I joined, it was just moved away from auto deploy once a week or a couple of times a week to daily, and now it's like it's quite straightforward to get out a couple, 2 or 3 a day, to be honest, provided there's no incidents. So,
well, I can try to help here, so I can be interested in. Cool,
great. Should we open up an issue, and then maybe what we could do is just like try and drop in like what are some of the milestones we saw, like any lessons learned or gotchas that we came across along the way, and like then everyone can kind of just contribute without having to write a full post, and then we can sort of edit that up to a post if we have enough stuff. Awesome, sounds good. Cool, so a few things I wanted to, so I've been updating things around this new deployment blocker process. The gist behind this was really just to have a super simple one way that all deployments could be blocked either by ourselves, by a developer if they find a regression, and also by quality if they have an issue going on. So first of all, it's a request. If you come across stuff, hopefully everything in our documentation and the QA issue and all of these things now just links out to this handbook page. If you come across anything, then please update it or let me know where it is so we can get everything to be consistent, and then we can just maintain this one place. But then the second bit was over the last few weeks, obviously we've been, there's been a couple of times I think where we've had some incidents. So I think Jarv last week, I think it was, you opened one over a staging deployment, I think. And then Myra, you had one on Friday around staging in Canary. So how comfortable are we feeling about this process at the moment?
I'll start. I don't like it very much. Like I think it's good for getting attention on things. We've recently had to do this a few times with migration problems, and often they are real issues. I would say at least 50% of the time, they are real issues that need to be fixed either by reverting the change or you know, something else. In some cases, we have to like manually go into the database and make a change or something like that. I think has gotten like, it's taken me a while to get used to raising an S2 issue for this because it doesn't feel like staging should be an S2 issue. And I think now that I'm used to it, it's fine. And now other people are used to it, it's okay. So I don't know. I guess I'm okay with it now. You know, maybe it should be S3. I guess one of the problems with it being an S2 is that for all other S2 incidents, the on-call needs to join the incident room, and we're like heavily like you're heavily involved with the SRE on-call. In all the cases I've been on, it's the SRE on-call is like, do I need to jump on this? And I'm like, no, we have a revert MR prepped, and we're just waiting for that to go through. So in that way, it feels a little bit strange. Maybe someone else has something to add.
Yeah, I think if there was nothing else involved, then yeah, I think it would be a more appropriate severity depending on each situation. I think this one will probably be a bit of a case of sort of us just getting a bit comfortable with it. So the process comes from Brent. So it's Brent's request that we raise S2s on this stuff. And that's really because in the worst case, this is absolutely an S2. Like the worst case is that we end up in a situation where we have, we need to deploy something because site stability and we have a blocked pipeline. So that's kind of the reasoning behind it. Yeah, I definitely agree there will be times where it feels extreme. But I think what worked well, the one I saw you do, Jarv, was like having it assigned to you. I think it means that, I think if people feel like we've got it under control, they'll probably be fine with that. But hopefully as we go on, it will feel less extreme for these things. Cool. And I think it will be a case of just as like it feels a bit dramatic, but I think keep in mind, like, although our tests failing may not necessarily be an incident, they end up in a situation where we could be causing or making an existing incident way worse by not having a pipeline ready to go. So cool. See how we go. Like if you come across like times where you really think like, oh, that really wasn't helpful to have this, then like shout and we can review things. But now we've kind of gone for what's the simplest process we could have in place that captures all of these things. So we'll see how we go. But do feel like, actually, when I chatted to Quality about this, they really liked the idea. They really like the fact that they have a kind of a trigger they can just pull and it means the deployment stops. So I think the fact that it's so immediate, it's quite positive for other people as well. So we'll see how it goes.
I do have a question about those incidents. For example, the one on last Friday was caused because some CSS changes. So creating an S2 incident about it was like, yes, I also felt a bit like this might not be necessary because the SRE on call like was not needed there. So when it comes to those incidents, do we need to also have a retrospective, or can we just, once it's mitigated because the merge request was merged, can we just close it?
I think that's a bit of so that one on Friday, yeah, is a bit of a question. So I think if that one on Friday has literally just been a CSS issue, yeah, I think we can just close it. The only reason I haven't necessarily, I think we might want to ask specifically about that one, Myra, is just because the infrastructure issue that Stan fixed in amongst that, like he restarted something. So just because there was a slight an additional element to that, I think it's probably it's a little less clear to me. But yeah, I think if it's a case of there was a bug, particularly I think if we find it on staging, so that's the absolute best case, right? Is there's a regression, it gets caught somehow, incident gets raised, which means it never gets to Canary. We get the MR, we get merged in, and we go ahead. That's fine. I don't think there's anything, except for maybe Quality may want to do something, but I would think that on the whole, there's probably not too much we want to do to that. But if there is, There might be other times where we do want to take some action. So like maybe, like I think we saw a few times last week, for example, things failing silently. If we came across something like that, then that might be a useful corrective action for us. There could be something that quality wants to take from, like, we were missing some automation or something like that. Or worst case is this thing went to production. We didn't see it at all, in which case we'll have some. So I think it's a bit case by case, but yeah, the main reason for it being an S2 is simply so that it definitely blocks deployments. And if we do need to pull people in, so if we need to escalate this up in any way, it's pretty easy to get people pulled into an S2 incident. So if it doesn't make sense to take a load of corrective actions afterwards, that's totally fine.
I don't know the details about this incident, but my take on this is that if it's a development problem, so it's an error, it's not a trivial one, maybe it's worth even having a lightweight asynchronous retrospective just to make sure that the corrective actions are back into the development phase. So if there is something that the developer were not aware of, infrastructure-wise or whatever, or just thinking about coding at scale, then it's better than they go through the to the synchronous retrospective and maybe learn something out of it, because otherwise it's just the same thing I've done, it's merged, I don't care what happens next.
Yeah, that's actually a really great point. And again, I think it's a useful thing to have an incident which all kind of parties come into the same issue, but also it gives it some weight, because it was an incident. I think people generally know that means something serious happens. So yeah, actually that's a really great point. Even if we don't necessarily do the full big thing, like I think it probably is worth making sure quality and the appropriate developers are aware of that incident so that we can pick up some stuff their side. Yeah, great point.
And it could just be that we send that incident issue over to the maintainer that was working on whatever is reverted and such, so that they can drive the RCA, because it was kind of their fault. But that's me being kind of mean. But I do think an RCA would be beneficial, because if it's a process that was not followed appropriately, staging did its job. So we should figure out what process broke that led to staging breaking, because that should have been caught before it reached staging in the first place, in my opinion. Aside from that, I do think we need to have some guidelines, because I don't see, the only guidelines I see in our documentation is the fact that we need to have a retro done. I don't see anything that says if this is part of a development process, it's okay, just, let's do or not do an RCA, for example. I think we need to betterize our documentation regarding that front. And the last comment I have is, why an S2? If S3s also block deployments and S2s require integration with the on-call engineer, why not just make it an S3?
So I don't actually have a full answer to that. So we had a period where some things were S2 and some things were S3. I believe it is actually because some things are definitely S2s. So I think the general thinking is it will always be an S2 or lower. So it's better to just start high and downgrade our response if needed. So I think it's almost the fact that it is an S2 and everybody kind of immediately jumps to attention. There's a Zoom call ready to go if we need it. Versus anything else. I can't think of anything. Oh, one thing that will be done actually is Brent's talking about updating the grid that we have in the handbook. I can't remember what it's called, the thing where you go and work out which severity it actually is. Because at the moment that only talks about external customers. But I think his thinking of an S2 is it's catastrophic for us internally because we've just blocked all of our pipelines. So I think he's going to try and get some extra wording in there about what's the internal impact of this issue. And then my assumption is based on what he's planning to write under an S2, it would make a lot more sense that we're using it for this stuff.
Well, if you think about it, is blocking 24 hours of development. So maybe this is the basic idea, because if we want to move faster, we just have to prioritize this and put some heavy, yeah, and S2 it means something. You have to go through an RCA, and so you don't want to cause an S2 incident. Maybe you are okay in causing an S3 one, but do you really want to cause an S2 or an S1?
Yeah, and I think that's what we're feeling. The reluctance we're feeling is like, I really don't want to cause an S2, but yeah, it's we should think about our unblocking of everything. And it is really, really effective when we use it. So like, Myra, it was so awesome that you had that incident on Friday, because of Saturday when I was online with Yurik, I was like, oh, cool, I can just kick off staging again, which meant this morning we just had regular staging and canary builds going through, which was really helpful. So it is really effective. It feels dramatic, I think, is the way I feel about it. Cool. Is there anything else that people want to talk about on that stuff, or anything else?